Jamie Rothwell has been jailed this week, and police shut down Manchester city centre to ensure nobody could break him out from the Securicor vans. He was a very dangerous person, and he had a massive influence in the organised crime areas of Newcastle and further afield. This is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Himself and his gang was arrested after Encrochat was hacked, and we have the biggest playlist on Encrochat stories, I believe, in the world. If you want to catch up to date from the very beginning back in 2020 when the police first started arresting people and Encrochat was shut down. It was an encrypted messaging platform used to transfer large amounts of drugs, order hits on rival gang members, and also to keep away from the police and under the radar. It cost a lot of money to operate, and the police in France hacked it and sent all the information to the National Crime Agency in Britain, and thousands of arrests were made across the last several years. The operation set up by Greater Manchester Police was called Tandem, and it worked in cooperation with the NCA to search through messages and identify the users and jail all of the individuals involved. This week at Manchester Court, he was jailed for 43 years for running the multi-million-pound drug operation and also trying to get certain people murdered on Encrochat. Rothwell pled guilty in April to 1 count of conspiracy to possess firearms with intent to endanger life, 1 count of conspiracy to possess ammunition, conspiracy to supply a controlled drug that is Class A, 2 counts of grievous bodily harm with intent, and a single count of supplying ketamine. In April 2020, Rothwell was living in Spain and continuing to orchestrate the importation and distribution of drugs, firearms and criminal cash from abroad. Despite his efforts to evade justice, detectives were able to monitor the encrypted communications from Encrochat in real time, and he exposed his command over a sprawling criminal network and his involvement in trafficking high-powered weapons that included AK-47s. His drug empire was estimated to have a street value of £26 million. He was deported back to the UK in 2021 to face trial. Craig Mackinson, who was part of the conspiracy, was jailed for 38 years. Callum Morris, 33, from Carbank Crescent, Atherton, was jailed for 38 years. James Close from Lee was sentenced to 36 years. Zach Rourke was sentenced to 18 years. Andrew Ackers from Wigan was jailed for 10 years and 2 months. Scott Davis was jailed for 8 years and 6 months. Terence McDowell was jailed for 8 years. John Stackers was jailed for 6 years. And John Moore was jailed for 1. The senior investigating officer, Detective Sergeant Colin Shankleton, said the supply of Class A drugs in this investigation was on an industrial scale, with the criminal gang making eye-watering profits. They believed there was above the law and had access to messages that gave real insight into their arrogance and egotistical and apathetic nature. This has been a complex and long-standing investigation that has spanned years and international borders. Everyone involved in the gang was a high-level drug dealer, but Jamie was the one that was in control over everybody. Craig Mackinson used the handles Top Shag and Top Shagard, and he acted as the right-hand man of Jamie, and he was a very busy man, essentially running the regional operation, the police said. His messages involved lots of images of criminal cash in his kitchen, which again matched what the police found inside his home. He was also so confident that his messages were encrypted that on one occasion, when discussing the delivery of cocaine, he sent his own personal postcode as a point of contact. On another occasion, he sent text messages talking about a date night with his girlfriend and a romantic table that was set up in their living room. Another conspirator was James Close. He used the handle Ball Sniffer and Sick Plane, and throughout the conspiracy period, detectives were able to attribute these handles to James. He sent several selfies and images of household items that matched what the officers found when they searched his home. Callum Morris used the handle Keyhole, and he was discovered after he sent a selfie, and Morris, who was confident of the levels of privacy, that he sent several messages of firearms taken from an address on Selwyn Street. Throughout the conspiracy period, these men were busy orchestrating deals on a daily basis, all while navigating the difficulties of importing drugs during coronavirus lockdown. Andrew Ackers was a courier for the group, and he was witnessed leaving an address in Macclesfield on the 14th of April 2020, and he was heading in the direction of Newcastle upon Tyne. Encrochat messages aligned, and it was clear that this day he was transporting drugs to a customer. Surveillance caught hackers dressed in a high-vis in an attempt to pretend to be a key worker on the road and avoid police detection in a black Mercedes, hand over a large bag to another individual. Moments later, messages were sent to Rothwell confirming that hackers had seen the Jord, a reference to the geographical location. Shortly before 12 p.m, Acker's car was stopped on the M62 Greater Manchester. He was found with £2,000 in cash, and he said that he was going to buy a parrot. On the 15th of April, another busy day for the gang. They were moving cash and cocaine around in Newcastle, Cheshire and Greater Manchester. That day, Rothwell was also sending images of AK-47s to Mackerson, saying that they had a few AKs for sale and he was going to buy one for $10,500. Rothwell instructs Mackerson to pay for the gun for him, and Close states that he was someone who would move the weapon for him. In the midst of the discussion about the firearm, Close warns Morris about the importance of keeping their communications secure and the consequences of failing to do so. On the 20th of April 2020, Morris collected $10,500 and headed off to buy the firearm from an individual in a red van. CCTV confirms the purchase, and 11 minutes after the transaction, Rothwell receives an image of the AK-47. The following day, 16th of April 2020, the conversations and arrangements of drugs continue, as they did every single day. In May, arrangements were made for a hit to be made against somebody. Morris is told the target is currently on curfew, and Morris confirmed that he had possession of a gun. He said it would be like Rambo or hide in the bin. This wasn't the first time they were planning violence. Throughout the entire conspiracy period, police found several messages detailing planned attacks and depicting the cold and callous nature of this criminal gang. On the 24th of May 2020, Rothwell was arrested in Barcelona. 2 days later, James Close sent Encrochat messages to a contact who was also a solicitor, and they had an encrypted voice call. At around the same time, Close explains to another contact that somebody has been arrested, and this was in reference to Jamie. On the 27th of May, police executed a warrant on Bolton Road in Macclesfield, and Davis was present at the address and was subsequently arrested. It's believed that the address was being used as a safe house by Mackerson and Connor, and in the loft they found plastic bags containing 368 grams of heroin, a small quantity of cocaine, alongside digital scales and cutting agents. Police then went on to raid John Stankus on Wigan Street. Several packages of white powder were later found, and they were confirmed to be cutting agents and amphetamine. On the 28th of May, police officers had Craig Mackerson under surveillance. They observed him retrieve something from his shed and go towards the rear of a car. Police followed another male when he left the address and stopped the vehicle and recovered 3 kilos of cocaine from underneath a dog cage that was positioned in the boot. On the 29th of May, James became concerned that his driver had been arrested as the van had not turned up and his phone was off. He was reassured that the money that he hid in the secret compartment was still there. Unbeknown to James, his driver had been stopped by police at Barton Park truck stop, and the police had recovered 50 grand from inside the van. At first, Close appeared concerned about the arrest of the driver, although a little while later, he was confident that the driver wouldn't speak. He said he knows the score, family die straight away, he knows that. Later that evening, messages show Close knows that his driver's been arrested. The next morning, messages are sent showing a clear concern that the gang got under a police operation following a series of arrests. The wider OCG continue to discuss the fallouts of the recent arrests and the whispers that Mackerson should have disclosed that his driver had been arrested so they could all assess their own risks. Conscious of the police activity, James Close purchased a new phone, hoping to throw police off. Towards the end of May, the gang was starting to panic, with Morris and McDonough attending the home address of John Moore, with Morris moving a holdall containing the AK-47 that Rothwell had purchased back in April. On the 6th of June, police enter an address in Astley and they recover an AK-47, ammunition and magazines hidden in a bag in one of the bedrooms. The bag was similar in appearance to the one that was carried by Morris from the safe house, and it was confirmed to be the same firearm that Rothwell had purchased. At this address, Terence McDonough was arrested, and over several nights, evidence obtained from the encrypted mobile phones that was attributed to Morris and Close showed them communicating about the recovery recovery of the AK-47s and the arrest of McDonough. By mid-June, a service-wide message went out from Encrochat that told everybody that their servers were compromised and to delete all of their chat history. On the 22nd of July, police executed a significant strike day and raided several addresses, and James Close was arrested in Lee, and police seized electronic devices, also luxury clothing, a CCTV system, a remote surveillance camera, a machete, and a snap bag of white powder with his fingerprints on it. In the garden of his house, inside a shed, police found a drug processing factory that included a hydraulic press with pressing plates, gloves, a shrink wrapping machine, a blender, electronic scales, a knife, a heat lamp, and various packages of white powder. Craig Mackison was arrested while enjoying a holiday in Lincolnshire. Telephones and cash were seized from him on arrest. In custody, he denied knowing Rothwell or Close and having anything to do with the drugs that the police had found. Callum Morris was arrested at his home in Atherton, and mobile phones and bundles of cash, estimated to be around 10 grand, were recovered, and also his encrypted mobile phone. Police found images of ammunition being held in a non-identifiable hand, but they used a fingerprint expert to identify that the fingerprints belonged to Morris. Andrew Ackers was rearrested at his address on Benjamin Fold in Ashton in Macclesfield, Wigan. Zach Rourke left the country the night before, but police executed warrants and he did not return. Police tracked Rourke to Spain and Dubai, where he was deported in 2024, and throughout the conspiracy period, the police believed they moved up to £26 million worth of drugs. They had also discussed the transfer of over £4 million in cash, a large number of firearms that included an AK-47, Glock handguns and also shotguns. And this showed the severity of the group and how powerful they was, and how the police saw them as a very big threat. And I look forward to hearing what viewers have to say. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and follow on social media as well at Scarcity Studios.